everybody. Welcome to Everyday with Danica. We have a very exciting chore to do today. You are going to help me do my dishes. Woohoo! Just kidding. I know nobody likes doing the dishes, but unfortunately, it's something that everybody has to do. And I cook at home a lot. So that means I have a lot of dishes to do. So I think it's pretty important vocabulary since we can use it every single day. Before we get started actually doing the dishes, let's talk about some specific vocabulary words that might be a little bit different in your own language. So this is called a countertop. A countertop is what's on top of a table that does not move. As you can see, this isn't going anywhere. So it's not called a tabletop, it's called a countertop. You could also call it just a counter. So you can have a counter in many different places. You could have a counter in your bathroom. You have a bathroom counter where you put all your things. You could have a counter at a fast food restaurant like McDonald's or Burger King. You could also have a counter at a department store like, say, in the makeup section, they probably have makeup counters. Here we have a faucet. Don't confuse the word faucet for the word sink. A sink is where the water goes after it comes out of the faucet. So if you were going to say, I'm going to do the dishes, I'm going to turn on the faucet. That sounds great. Don't say, I'm going to turn the sink on. That sounds a little bit funny, okay? Let's talk about all these dishes that I have here. I have all different kinds of dishes in my sink. Some of them are sitting in my sink, and some of them are sitting on my counter. Notice that I use the word sitting. It's not only people that can sit. My backpack is sitting on the ground over here. Now, like I said, I have lots of dishes sitting all over the place. And what I'm going to do is take this towel and I'm going to set it down on the counter. Notice that I use the word set and not sit. So we have sit, S-I-T, and set, S-E-T. Oh my goodness, the difference is so small, but at the same time, so big. So let's talk about it. Sit is an intransitive verb. So that means that you don't need a direct object right after sit. You can just use it as a command, you can use it as an action verb, and you don't need to use an object afterwards. However, the verb set is a transitive verb, which means that it's kind of transferring the action to the object that it is acting on. So, in a sentence, when you use the word set, you need to make sure that there is a direct object directly after the verb. Like I said, I use the direct object it. So I set it on the counter. Okay? Looks like we're almost ready to go. I'm just going to turn on the faucet here so that the water can warm up. And let's get going. These are called scraps. Scraps is a word for extra food that you don't have any intention of eating. So they're different from leftovers. Leftovers are things that you can put into a container like this. Leftovers are things that you have an intention to eat later. So you can put your leftovers in a container and put them in the fridge. I already ate all of my leftovers that were in this container, so now I'm washing it. But obviously I'm not going to eat these. I never thought about eating these. I was only going to throw them in the trash. So I call these scraps. After cooking, you might have a lot of scraps, whether it be fruit scraps, vegetable scraps, or maybe scraps of meat. So I just threw the scraps away into the trash can. Now I'm ready to scrub. This is called a brush, by the way. A brush is something that we use for our hair. As you probably know, you can brush your hair with a hairbrush. This is obviously not a hairbrush, but it does the same action, so we call it a brush. It's different from a sponge, which I do have one here. This is called a sponge. Okay, so maybe you know what this is, but it's different from a brush. A brush has actual bristles that go out so you can scrub whatever it is that you're washing. I like to scrub my dishes with soap first and then wash them all with water at the very end because I feel like it saves a little bit of water. Like I said here, this is a container. And a container is something that contains your food. So maybe you use containers to take your food to work with you. But watch this magic right here. I take off the lid, and all of a sudden, I have a dish. If I were to ask somebody, can you hand me that container right there? If this is sitting on the table, it doesn't really sound exact, so you would probably say, hand me that dish. So all of these things are dishes. They're all dishes, they're all different dishes. We have a plate, a bowl, and a dish. You could also call this a bowl. It does have that kind of bowl-like shape to it. But me personally, I would just call it a dish because it's unique. It's its own kind of thing. I'm really glad that y'all are helping me today. This makes doing the dishes way more fun, okay? So now that I have scrubbed all of my dishes with my brush, I'm ready to rinse off my dishes. And rinsing is something really important. You want to get all of the soap off by rinsing with water. You can rinse a lot of other things too. You can rinse your hair after you put shampoo or conditioner in it. You can rinse off your hands. So as you can see here to my right, I'm stacking up the dishes into a very neat pile. I'm setting them onto the towel. Remember set, S-E-T, there needs to be the object after it. I'm setting them down onto the towel. I'm going to rinse off a few more dishes here. Okay, here's an interesting one. What do you think this is called? A glass? Maybe. Actually, I would call this a jar. And the reason it's called a jar is because, as you can see, it has the rim around the edge where you can put a lid on top of it. So, here at my house, or my apartment, we actually use jars to drink because they're like multifunctional. They can be, just cups or glasses, or they can transform into something that we can keep our leftovers in and store them in the fridge. You probably have a lot of jars in your pantry, or maybe in your refrigerator too. You could have a jar of pickles, or a jar of maybe marinara sauce. Almost done, woohoo! So this one is indeed only called a glass. And it is made of glass, so that is the name for it. I wouldn't call it a cup, even though a cup does the same thing. You drink out of cups and you drink out of glasses. But since this one's made of glass, you would just call it a straight up glass. Pretty interesting the way there's so many different names for one item, right? I think that's what makes the English language fun, is that there's so much variety that you can customize your speech to your personality. Okay, so this is a brush, and, well, these are all brushes, actually, but they're all different. They all have different functions. What do you think this brush is for? Ta-da! We use reusable straws here, at our apartment, trying to be environmentally friendly. Doing our best anyways. That's part of the reason that I don't use our dishwasher here. If you know what a dishwasher is, it's an appliance that I'd say 99%, if not 100% of Americans have in their kitchens. So pretty much everybody in America uses a dishwasher, and it is like a box that fills up with hot water and washes your dishes all automatically. So I know that they don't have them in a lot of countries. They don't have them in Brazil. I lived in Brazil for a while, so that's where I learned how to do my dishes by hand. Up until then, I had always just used a dishwasher, and it was very convenient. So they don't have them in Brazil, I know, and I know that they don't use dishwashers in China either, where I lived for a while. So those were fun times, and I think I've just really gotten into the habit of doing them by hand. It doesn't bother me as much as it used to when I first started doing it, but I do think it saves a lot of water also, and it really helps me connect with the cooking experience more by, realizing that, okay, I made a mess, I have to clean it up. So that kind of transfers into other parts of your life too. It's kind of metaphorical. So this is my cutting board. This is the last thing that I need to wash. And this one's a little bit special since it is wooden. I'm not going to stack it with the other dishes. This one I dry by hand. These other ones, I'm just going to let them air dry, and that's what you could call when something just dries on its own. You could say maybe you're letting your hair air dry, and that's whenever you don't use like a blow dryer to dry your hair, or you just let it dry on its own naturally. That's called air drying. Okay, like I said, I'm not gonna let this one air dry. It needs to be dried by hand. So I'll just grab another towel and rub it down really quick and dry it off. All right, all clean and dry. One last thing that I like to do is just rinse off the sink to get rid of all of the soap and any food scraps or leftovers. I also like to rinse off the brushes and get rid of any of the soap residue. Okay, voila! We have a clean sink, we have dishes that are air drying, and this side of the countertop is all cleared. So I'm just going to let these sit here until they dry. Okay, well thank you so much for helping me with my dishes. That was so much more fun than usual. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned a lot of new vocabulary that you can use in your own everyday life. Now please like this video and subscribe so that you can see more Everyday with Danica videos. Bye-bye!